Get your win at WallaceWins.com.
All right, you know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the WallaceWins.com podcast. We are here in studio. My special guest today, Ahmad Harasis, graduate of CSUN undergrad, recent graduate of Southwestern Law School, currently serving in a post-bar fellowship through the Los Angeles chapter of ABOTA, the American Board of Trial Advocates. Ahmad sat for the California bar exam in July, with results coming out in early November. And in addition to his educational background, Ahmad enjoys photography, running, cooking, and exploring emerging technologies. Ahmad, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Brad. I appreciate it.
It's great to have you. Great to have you in studio, and great to have you at the firm. And excited for today's podcast. Excited to get into a lot of different topics and ask you a bunch of questions. Are you ready?
I think I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay. Well, before we get into the questions about law school, the bar exam, your ABOTA fellowship, and all the other things we're here to talk about, of course, you know, if you've seen our podcast and you're a fan of the podcast, we're going to start out with rapid fire.
Oh, no.
I'm going to throw out a list of topics, and this is rapid fire, just as quickly as you can answer whatever comes to mind. You ready?
All right, let's do it.
Coolest place you've ever been?
The Wallace Firm.
That's a good start.
Have you seen the walls here?
Best sport to watch?
NBA basketball.
Best sport to play?
I'm a big runner. I'll say track and field.
All right. Movie you've seen more than any other?
White Chicks.
Your go-to favorite cuisine?
Ooh, Persian food.
Most peaceful time of day when you're not sleeping?
Oh, I was going to say nap time. My drive to work in the morning.
Coolest event you've ever attended?
Blink-182 concert.
All right. Best city you've ever lived in?
The best and only, LA. I don't know which way we're going, but
Best compliment you've ever received?
that I'm a gentleman.
Biggest pet peeve?
People that go out of their way to be mean to others. Kindness costs nothing.
Mean people suck.
Yep.
Favorite activity outside of school or work?
Spending time with my family.
What are you listening to right now?
I don't have a playlist. I have just everything goes in my liked songs album. Classical, rock, anything and everything. My drive to and from work is always it's unpredictable.
Window or aisle seat?
I'm gonna go ahead and say window seat, but I've actually never left California before, so I wouldn't know, but I think the window seems like the better choice here.
And that has been rapid fire. Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Nice way to kickstart the podcast, get the juices flowing, get comfortable on the mic. As I introduced you, obviously you got a couple of parts to your journey thus far in your young professional career that I want to talk about and have you, share your thoughts on.
Yeah.
We met through the ABOTA fellowship, which you're currently serving a month. I say serving like it's a prison sentence or something. Currently, but I think you serve a fellowship, right? Is that what you do? You serve on the fellowship?
Yeah.
Currently serving the portion of the fellowship with a plaintiff firm at my firm. Last month, spent a month with a employment defense firm, and then next month going to spend a month with a sitting Superior Court judge.
Yep.
So we're going to get into all that because that's exciting and that's how we met and that's why you're here. But obviously, in order to be an ABOTA fellow, it's typically the period of time after law school, after you've taken the bar exam, and while you're waiting on bar results, right?
Yep.
All right. So I want to rewind a little bit. You graduated Southwestern Law School this past summer, just before taking the bar.
Correct.
So talk to us about the law school experience. How was it for you?
I had a great experience. I was in a smaller cohort than typical in the law school because I did the accelerated 2-year program. So we started off with about 65 students, and our graduating cohort ended with 45.
Okay.
So quite a few dropped off along the way, but I mean, even the ones that did drop off were all still in contact. I think it was just one big family. And I can't speak for others, but I don't think a lot of other people's law school experience is that way. It's definitely challenging starting in the summer, going through winter, taking another summer. But I don't think I would have done it any other way.
Great. And just kind of thinking back on your experience in law school and being on the other end of it, what do you think it was that most drove you to pursue a law school education?
Yeah. So my story starts kind of with an unfortunate event. When my brother was 18, he got into some legal trouble. Well, actually, let me rewind a little. So my dad finished his undergrad in 86, started attending law school. But I have 5 brothers and 3 sisters. So we come from a really big family. So
Wow.
Juggling school and work was, it was a big task for him. So he ended up having to drop out to work and provide for the family. So after my brother had his ordeal, my dad actually went back to law school.
Wow.
In his mid-50s, and he finished it. And he did the damn thing, you know?
Wow.
He did a part-time program, and that was really what inspired me to, I was like, hey, if he was able to do that at this age and he can get it done, there's no excuse for me, right?
Wow.
But yeah, so, I was the first of my 8 siblings to graduate from undergrad and to go to graduate school. So I think it's a big honor, and I hope it's been inspirational to my younger sister.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you had, kind of the inspiration of your dad sort of charting the path and seeing not only that he had to kind of put it on pause for a while to sacrifice for the family, but then also he came back to it, and that kind of pushed you to say, hey, this is possible and this is something that I could tackle.
Definitely.
And you actually answered my next question was, do you have any regrets, or looking back, is there anything you would have changed? But you just said you wouldn't have had it any other way. So I'll move on. All right. So you take this accelerated program at Southwestern. You have a great experience, great group of people, close-knit kind of community. You graduate, and then the bar exam experience is sitting in front of you. You just took the bar in July. So walk us through the experience of preparing for and sitting for the California bar exam in 2024.
That brings back a lot of baggage. Okay, let's open it back up. So my schedule that I was supposed to stick to, I might have deviated a little here and there, but was by 8 a.m., you have your laptop open, you're reading over a fact pattern, and then from there, if you need to go shower, make your breakfast, whatever your morning routine is, you're thinking about the fact pattern while you're doing that, then coming back, sitting down at your desk, writing out whatever issues you spotted, and then review. That was what was emphasized the most to me. I think that's what was most helpful. So yeah, starting at 8 a.m., ideally going up until 10 p.m., but you have 2-hour breaks scheduled within that. You can watch a movie, take a nap, eat, whatever you need to do. And you could break those up however you see fit. But that was it. Monday through Sunday at the library. I think it was just a little hard setting boundaries with family and the people you love, because, they're so used to, they weren't so used to seeing me because of the nature of the 2-year program, right? But just setting boundaries and saying, hey, it's highly unlikely I'm going to be able to see you for the next 3 months. I'll, of course, call you, text you, come see you whenever I can. But yeah, that was the hardest part. But now, working here, I have more free time in the evenings. I'm making up for all that time that was lost.
Right. So what you're saying is my law firm hasn't given you near enough work to do.
Oh, no. What did I just ask for?
We got to keep you a little busier. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. And I think, as you described it, that's the really, really aggressive, dedicated way to study for the bar exam. Setting out a really strict daily schedule that involves, the majority of the day studying towards the bar and then executing on that and holding yourself accountable to that rather than, I could probably take the day off and I could probably shut down a little early or start a little late. And so what do you think it was for you that created the self-discipline to be able to stick to the script for the entirety of your preparation period?
Well, I think the biggest one was just the fact that I did not want to go through that experience again. I mean, just dedicating an entire 3 months to one thing, the idea of having to do that more than once, in itself was enough to just keep me on path.
Fear is a big motivator.
Yeah, no, definitely it is. My classmates, so I was lucky enough to live on campus, so I would just walk to the library, and there was a handful of us who would each take our own study room and just keep each other in check, make sure that we stayed on task and that we were there for the hours that we said we would be for the day.
Strength in numbers.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just the fact that I know I need to pass so I can get into the profession and start making money, because those student loans are not going to pay themselves.
Right. So the sense of urgency to just get it done.
Yeah.
Very good. We were actually talking about this offline, I think yesterday, with another attorney in the firm, but my recollection from my experience, which is many, many years ago, I know it's hard to believe because I still look so young, but in all seriousness, my experience was I couldn't get the bar exam out of my mind like the first week or two after the test. And I kept running through, did I do this? Did I do that? And, had the questions and the topics fresh in my mind. And then after that subsided, there was a couple of months, August, September, October, that maybe beginning of October, that you kind of put it out of your mind and find ways to enjoy and relax and almost forget about it in a way. And then it kicks back up a couple of weeks before the bar exam results come out. It starts to, bubble back up oh God, So this show might air in a couple of weeks or something, but you're still not quite at the place where you're in countdown mode on getting bar exam results. But we're into October and the clock is ticking. So talk to us about your post-bar kind of emotional journey and where you're at and how you're feeling about it.
Yeah, so I mean, right after the exam, I slept for an entire day, first of all. But then I had that 48-hour notice that, hey, you finished the bar, you're not a student in here, you need to get out of student housing. So I had to go straight into packing, then use that weekend to unpack, and then started studying again Monday morning for the MPRE because I didn't get it done during law school. So any law students out there, please, for the love of God, make sure you get it done before, so you have that in time for when bar results come out. That was the last administration. That August one was the last one before results come out, and I needed everything completed at that time. So God willing, I get a favorable result on the exam. I'm a licensed attorney now, right?
Right. Life was in session. You had to start doing your thing right away. You really didn't have much time to relax.
Yep. So that was 2 weeks, 9 to 5, back to studying. So, I mean, that kind of kept me distracted from the anxiety that came with finishing the exam, but it was definitely still there. The online community was very active in trying to recall whatever questions and topics were tested on the MBEs and the essays, and people were talking about it, and you're like, oh, I don't want to look, but I want to know if I got it right or not,
Yeah, it's the Monday morning quarterback. Everyone wants to try to go back and figure out if they hit everything.
Right.
But also, I mean, I imagine after spending months and months on such a rigorous study schedule and then sitting for the bar exam, I imagine studying for and taking the professional responsibility exam was kind of a piece of cake at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. I actually scored, I don't know if I want to say my score. Well, I scored a 1, so it's scaled.
You have to say the score. We can.
Well, okay, in California.
You scored very high.
I did score high. I will say that. But in California, we have the highest score required to pass the exam. It requires a scaled score of an 86.
Okay.
And let's just say I did substantially better than that.
Good. Well, it's also good to know that California has the highest standards for ethics in the practice of law. So big ups, California, way to hold your attorneys accountable. Okay, so you got through that, but then talk to us about kind of the last few months and how you've been feeling just in terms of the bar exam.
Yeah, so after the MPRE, I thought there would be a weight lifted off my shoulders, but then like right away, the stress of the bar exam came back and hit me. So I just did my best to distract myself for those 2 weeks, catch up with family, friends before the ABOTA fellowship started. Mm-hmm. And then I think the timing of this is perfect. I mean, you get great exposure to all 3 sides of a case.
Right.
And on top of that, you have something to do to keep you busy for those 3 months. You're not sitting at home losing your mind thinking about what the answer choices were that you put down.
Right. So just to kind of close the loop on the bar exam experience, what would you say was the most enjoyable part of the process of studying for and sitting for the bar exam? And then also, what was the most stressful part of the process for you so far?
Yeah. I think some good that came out of it was, I spent 3 months with the people I got closest to in law school. So you're seeing your friends every day. You're having meals with them every day. We all have to eat, right? So that was a good thing. Seeing your scores improve after all this time spent studying felt really good. I think a drawback was just the fact that you had absolutely no life outside of it, really. It was more than your 9 to 5 for 3 months. So it definitely took its toll on some people.
Yep. Yeah, it's a huge commitment for the people that are putting in that kind of work and really, taking it serious to the point of doing what they need to do to get ready. It's obviously a very rigorous exam and can be a very stressful process to study and sit for the bar. All right, great. So, and then we've talked about it, but I want to reintroduce it. The ABOTA Fellowship, the Los Angeles chapter of the American Board of Trial Attorneys, which is a trial attorney-only, invitation-only organization of the top plaintiff and defense civil trial attorneys in the country. And Los Angeles chapter is one of the largest ABOTA chapters in the country. They have a terrific fellowship program, the ABOTA Fellowship, which caters directly to folks that are in your situation, recent recent law school graduate, recently sat for the California bar exam, waiting on bar results, and then have this 3-month or so period that they're waiting. And law students apply for the fellowship. They interview, they submit all their credentials, and then a select number of applicants are accepted into this program, which is broken up into 3 months. The first month, the applicant or the fellow spends exclusively with an ABOTA-sponsored defense firm. The second month, the fellow spends exclusively with an ABOTA-sponsored plaintiff firm. And then the third month, the fellow is placed with a LA Superior Court judge to shadow a judge and see everything from the judicial branch perspective. So talk to us about what the process was like to apply for the fellowship and how it played out that you were accepted to the program.
Yeah, so I think pretty consistently, Southwestern has the highest number of students that participate in the ABOTA fellowship. So the school was putting listings out for that, and was more than, I mean, they had an entire informational session about it, and were willing to look over all of your materials before you submitted them, gave you some pointers on what to add, what to take out. And then after that was submitted, you get the notification that you're good to go to sit for an interview. Steve Glickman was the one that conducted the interview for us, and the interview was actually scheduled like right around the start of bar prep. So he was very mindful of that. It was like, okay, let's get this done, and you got to get back to your studying like right away. You know, you want this to be a one and done thing. You don't want to come back to it. That entire process was smooth, and then it was just a waiting game to see if you got approved. So they sent an email to everybody, so you could see all the other. You're like, oh wow, this person from my class, this person from my class, this person we're all in this together again. And it just goes back to that sense of family. It's like, wow, from that summer we started school all the way to now post bar, we're all together going through the same thing is good.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Special shout out to Steve Glickman, who's a longtime ABOTA member, and he chairs the ABOTA Fellowship Committee and is instrumental in running the program, and is very involved with processing and evaluating the applications and selecting the candidates who become fellows. And Steve does a tremendous job every year picking the best of the next generation of trial attorneys. So, shout out to Steve. Thank you for all the hard work you do for ABOTA. If you're watching, great job. So then you're waiting, and then talk to us about, you get the email, you get accepted.
Yep.
And then here you are. So you're in your second month of the fellowship at the Wallace Firm. And we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
You came from last month an experience with an insurance defense firm that does employment law defense, correct?
Yes.
Talk to us about that experience and working with the defense firm.
Yeah. So my experience prior, both of my externships that I completed in law school were with plaintiff side personal injury firms. So it was definitely something new. Just the clients that you're dealing with are people that typically aren't very happy. I mean, they just found out that they're getting sued, and now counsel's appointed to them, and they don't really want to deal with you or have to deal with this lawsuit, But I mean, but then the flip side of that, on the plaintiff side, you have somebody that just went through some catastrophic event that completely changed the course of their life and their family's life. So, you have it on both sides, right? How you have to deal with the client. But with that defense firm, sometimes, so I thought I was a plaintiff's guy through and through, but then you start seeing, hey, there are some mom and pop shops out here that really tried going out of their way to help somebody, and they weren't holding up their end of the deal. And now they come up with what I almost want to say is a frivolous claim against them just to teach them a lesson of some sort. And I was like, hey, I can see morally how I could take this person on as a client if I were to do defense work, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody has to do the job. Somebody needs to be there to defend you. I mean, just having that unfair bargaining power of an attorney with somebody unrepresented is completely unfair.
Everybody's entitled to representation.
Yeah, of course. So that was something that was pretty eye-opening to me. Another thing was just discussing this concept of billable hours with the attorneys there, and how much they despise it, and how things get kicked back to you, even though it's work that you actually completed, but the insurance company is just unwilling to pay you for that time. So getting creative in how you have to tag that time on to somewhere else, because I mean, it was time spent. It was something that you did. And yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So an eye-opening experience in terms of, opening your mind to the possibility that there's folks on the other side of the aisle that are going to also need representation, and also eye-opening in terms of evaluating the difference in the business model between a contingency firm, which is what most employment and personal injury plaintiff firms are, and a billable hour model on the defense side, and all of the different issues and unique sort of hurdles that go on when you have that kind of a model and you're dealing with insurance companies. Would you say overall it was a valuable experience that last month?
Yeah, because I mean, if it weren't for this fellowship, I don't think I would have stepped foot into a defense firm, if I'm being completely honest, and been open-minded to even potentially doing that type of work. So yeah, 100%.
Great. All right. And so obviously it probably is going to come off as a loaded question.
Oh no.
But how has your experience been so far at the Wallace Firm?
Well, I mean, given my background, I mean, the first day I stepped foot in here, I felt like I was back at home, just even the few cases that I have seen, I mean, it's only my first week here. I mean, they're catastrophic injuries and you're helping these families get the justice that they deserve. So, I mean, the work that you do is great. No complaints from me.
Ahmed has not been paid as an endorser of the firm.
No.
That was a completely genuine 5-star review, ladies and gentlemen. Please like and subscribe. Okay. And then next month, you're getting placed with an LA Superior Court judge. Do you know which judge yet? Have they told you?
They have told me, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I know that's bad. I know.
I thought you were going to tell me that it was like confidential and you weren't allowed to tell me.
That probably would have been the better answer.
But what are you most looking forward to in terms of your experience next month working with a sitting judge in LA Superior Court?
Yeah. I think for one, just getting courtroom exposure. I mean, I think right now I could count on one hand how many times I've been to a courthouse. So just getting comfortable and familiar with the layout there, how things operate. And then I think something that's really invaluable is being able to see what happens in chambers. So when I am on the other side of that, I know what thought process is going on back there and how I can tailor things to end up with a more favorable result for me and my client.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You get back there and see how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's going to be an invaluable experience. And just like any experience you have with, a law firm where there's a number of different defense or plaintiff firms you could have been placed with where they all kind of do the same thing, but each one's going to be a different experience based on the personality of the attorneys that work there and the philosophy of the way that the firm operates and how big or small the firm is or, whatever the case may be. I imagine there's also going to be a wide array of different experiences that the ABOTA fellows can get in their experience with the judge because there's so many different personalities on the bench in LA Superior Court. Your experience with one judge might be totally different than if you get placed with another judge. So maybe offline you can tell me who your judge is, and I'll let you know whether you're in for a favorable experience or the longest month of your life, or something in between. But shout out to all the judges out there that are watching. Thank you for your service. Without you, the civil justice system does not function.
True.
We need more good judges. That's all I can say. All right. And so how would you say up until this point, your experience with the ABOTA Fellowship has compared with your expectations of what you thought it was going to be going in?
Honestly, I would say it's pretty on par just because at the initial lunch that we had with all the fellows together, they had a fellow from the previous year come and describe their experience. So I think it's at the bare minimum lived up to that, and in some aspects has even surpassed it, right? And I think it just really gives all the fellows this sense. I mean, ABOTA's big thing is drilling civility into the minds of the attorneys and my class of fellows that are soon to be attorneys, right? And they're so big on that I think it was in 2014, ABOTA got the oath that attorneys take when they're sworn in amended to include a civility provision.
Correct.
And, having a new attorney swear to conduct themselves with dignity, courtesy, integrity is a huge thing. It really is, because if you see somebody's getting out of line, you can use that to say, hey, like, take a step back and look at the oath that you took. This is more than just like money at the end of the day. It's more than just representing your client. You're dealing with people, and they're dealing with their own things outside of this job,
Right.
So there's no need to, it goes back to my pet peeve of being a mean person. On the defense side, I saw some plaintiffs' attorneys that were just flat out rude, disrespectful for no reason. It was completely unwarranted. So I think just being able to mention that to them and have them reorient themselves it was a huge win for ABOTA and for all attorneys that are bound by that oath.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the ABOTA Fellowship Program. Obviously, happy to have you,
Thank you.
With our firm this month. I think this is the 6th or 7th year that we've had an ABOTA Fellow as part of the program, and I volunteer to have my firm involved with it every year because I believe in not only the, what ABOTA stands for in general, which you mentioned one part of it, which is the civility between opposing counsel. But the other big part of ABOTA and the foundation of ABOTA is preserving the constitutional right to a jury trial in civil cases.
7th Amendment, baby.
Yep. And that's, in my opinion, the bedrock of our judicial system, what separates the American justice system from so many other justice systems around the world, and is really a pillar of our constitutional rights as a country, as a people, to, if you disagree with somebody, if you have a dispute with somebody, rather than settle it in the street or eye for an eye or, all those other kinds of things, you can bring your case to a court and have a jury of 12 of your peers from the community who don't know you and don't know the other person, listen to everything, and then decide the case. So I'm a huge fan of ABOTA. It was a big goal of mine professionally to get into ABOTA, which I did about 8 years ago. And every year it kind of reinstills my faith in the practice, seeing the law school graduates, post-bar graduates, the next generation of trial attorneys come through, and it's refreshing, it's invigorating, it motivates me to continue to learn and grow, and also to give back to the next generation, so to speak, of folks who are going to be, holding that mantle for many, many years, helping people, representing people. And so welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
We're just getting started. We're like not even done with the first week, but we got a lot of big things in store. You got a mediation later today?
I do. What time is it actually?
I don't know, but if the defense attorneys out there, get ready to settle. Ahmed's coming to the mediation. You got to put your money up today. All right, so I want to ask you some more questions, but before I do, we're going to do another segment that's pretty famous at this point on the internet. It's a staple of the WallaceWins.com podcast, and it's known as Underrated, Overrated. right, I'm going to tell you a list of things, and you need to tell me whether they are underrated or overrated, and a brief explanation why. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Ranch dressing.
Overrated. It's good. I use it, but I think it's overused.
Law school.
Overrated. Don't go.
Seeing a movie in the theater.
Underrated. Too many people are watching movies at home nowadays. I mean,
got to get that authentic experience.
Yeah.
Chat GPT.
Underrated. I use that thing as my search engine now. That's my initial starting point of anything I'm trying to look up.
Surprise birthday parties.
Overrated. I like to know what's going on beforehand.
Not a surprise guy?
No.
The snooze button.
Overrated. I wish it didn't exist.
Self-deprecating humor.
Overrated. You know, actually, I heard your brain can't differentiate between like sarcasm and the truth. So anything that you do say, your brain starts to believe if you say it enough.
Side hustles.
Underrated. I wish I had one. I could use extra cash.
Could always get with Gary Vee and go garage sailing. Are you a Gary Vee fan?
He says some good things. I've seen some positive clips from him, but I don't know.
Shout out to Gary Vee. Social media apps.
Overrated. I'm not a big fan. I think people are posting too much BS on there now.
But not this podcast. This podcast is
not.
Totally quality
everything
social
aside
media
from this.
content. SoCal weather.
Overrated. I like the cold personally.
I think it's the first person that's ever said overrated. FaceTime calls.
Underrated. There's no room for miscommunications with text and emojis and all that stuff. You see somebody's live reaction to what they're saying. I think they're good.
And that has been Underrated, Overrated. Great job, Ahmad.
Thank you.
We're rolling now. All right. We got a couple more. You still with me?
I am.
All right. It's not like you're going anywhere. I mean, when we finish with this podcast, I'm just going to send you back to your desk to do more work. No, I'm kidding. You could take the day off. Yes. Let all the other ABOTA fellows just wonder why they didn't get placed with the Wallace Firm. Shout out Steve Glickman.
He does a personality-based matching for firms. So.
I know. And he owed me this year to give me a good placement because last year, not to name any names.
What if they're watching?
But my ABOTA fellow for the first time, and I think might have been the first time in the history of the program, just quit after like 2 days. Guy never came back.
What'd you do to the guy?
I didn't do anything. I mean, you've been around me. I'm a pretty decent guy. It was just weird.
Huh.
It might have been something completely unrelated to me. I don't know, but it was a total burnout situation. So I had to call Steve and explain what had happened because I felt bad. Like, did I do something to ruin this guy's experience? You know, this is an ABOTA program. I want to make sure that I'm, representing the organization properly. I don't want to have a negative result.
No, for sure.
But Steve owed me to get me a quality fellow this year. I told him I can't have 2 burnouts in a row.
Here I am.
So whether you like it or not, you're not quitting, you're not resigning, you're not burning out. Like, we're going to make this work. Plus, we need you there for the mediation later today. All right, so I want to end the podcast with a couple of questions that are more like philosophical in nature, which is, if you had to boil down your own recipe for success in your educational and professional journey so far, what would be the slogan on your bumper sticker?
It'd probably be something along the lines of staying consistent. I think just knowing what your end goal is, regardless of any setbacks that you have, any circumstances in your life. I mean, we all have stuff that's going on, right? Just keeping your eye on the prize and just going through with the plan. Every day that goes by, if you're making any sort of progress, consider it a win. We don't all have or follow the most conventional paths to get to where we are. I mean, just looking back at my cohort at Southwestern, we came from every walk of life imaginable. So, and we all ended up in the same place and we all graduated together and here we are. So if you want something, just stick with it, be consistent with it, and you'll get there.
All right, so you ready? I'm going to help you out. We'll put the bumper sticker, maybe Angel in post-production, you can put the little graphic up, the bumper sticker. You ready? And it'll go this way, I think, right? Consistency equals success. What do you think?
I like it.
Are we there?
Yeah.
Is that the bumper sticker?
Yep.
You should copyright that, like the guy that copyrighted like shit happens on the bumper sticker. Guy made millions.
That'll be my side hustle.
But consistency equals success. I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that's, a tried and true philosophy. There's a lot of different ways that people explain that or describe that. There's some people kind of in the sports world that talk about just get 5% better every day, just improve a little bit, there's the cliche, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, just consistent, small progress over time leads to big results at the end.
Definitely. That's how I ended up here.
Next question. If you had an opportunity to advertise the strategy behind achieving personal growth and happiness in your own life, what would be on your billboard?
It's a good question. Thought-provoking.
Only the hard-hitting questions here on the podcast.
I've been told I'm a nice guy by almost everybody I come across in my life, right? And like I said earlier, kindness costs nothing. So I think if you just go through life with a perspective that not everybody has an ill will towards you, it makes it easier for you to be able to be kind toward them if you think that they are thinking the same way that you are, right? I think if we're just all not complete a-holes to each other, things would go a million times smoother. I mean, not even just in the context of a lawsuit, but even outside of this, just in our everyday lives. And I think just a simple, hey, how are you to somebody has opened up so many opportunities to me, and relationships with people that I would not have otherwise.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about it in terms of what your billboard would say. I'm thinking like, yeah, but we got to fit it on a billboard.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
Let's throw a block of text on there.
That was a run-on sentence. I mean, people are going to be already past the billboard and still reading. I think we got to go with something like, give people the benefit of the doubt. It's better for them.
It's better for you.
And better for you.
It's better for everybody.
Better for them, better for you, better for everybody.
I like it.
Got something there. That's another slogan you're going to have to copyright.
The font's going to be pretty small on the bumper sticker for that one.
No, this is the billboard. This is the billboard.
Oh, but I need more ideas for my bumper sticker side hustle now.
Yeah, www.bekindbetterforeveryone.com. Being kind is betterforeveryone.com.
I bet it's a real site already.
I got to go scoop that up off GoDaddy before this podcast airs. Otherwise, someone's going to grab it. I've been told that I'm a serial domainer.
Oh, do you actually just buy things you think people are like, flip them?
I mean,
It's your side hustle. It's okay.
I've always been about that flip game. But I can say, quite honestly, I've never sold a URL. I just hoard them.
That's fair.
Yeah, but
They're like your NFTs.
Yeah, I mean it's a long-term investment. I think your billboard is spot on. I think this idea of giving people the benefit of the doubt. It comes down to like there's always two ways to look at something in life, and I think a lot of people will default to, just as a kind of a defense mechanism in a way, sometimes default to thinking about things in worst case scenario type mentality or lowest common denominator or lowest level of expectation of what someone else is going to do, rather than thinking optimistically about, hey, maybe this is actually a positive situation, or giving somebody the benefit of the doubt. Like, they might have said something, but I don't need to interpret it negatively. It could be positive or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And there's all those, classic examples of, you see someone speeding on the freeway and immediately you're like, oh, that guy's a maniac and he's, a rule breaker and he, what a jerk and an a-hole and all this stuff. And then
could be rushing home to an emergency.
You find out later his pregnant wife's in the passenger seat and he's trying to get to the hospital, right?
Yeah.
So it's all those kinds of situations. And we see that a lot in our cases, in the practice. Sometimes, I'll tell a quick story. Early in my career, I was at a mediation back before COVID when we used to actually go to mediations in person. Mm-hmm. And I was there with my client, and the mediator came in at one point halfway through the mediation, and he asked me, "Hey, can I talk to you privately?" He pulls me out, and he has a really serious look on his face, and he goes, "Hey, I'm trying to get, the defense to offer more money, but they've just presented me with some very concerning information. The adjuster for the insurance company has been looking at your client's social media profiles, and your client, like a month after the accident, posted a video to her social media account cliff jumping in Mexico when she was supposed to be treating for her injury and injured from the accident. And so they don't think that your client's injury claim is credible. They think a jury is going to be very upset about the fact that she's trying to make all these injury claims while she's, on vacation, cliff jumping in Mexico. And this is a big problem. And, when you hear that kind of information, the doom and gloom starts to go through your mind, like, oh my gosh, my case is going to be tanked and the value. And then you start to question your client's credibility. Has my client been lying to me and all? So the knee-jerk reaction is kind of all these things go through your mind. Well, I go back to the room to talk to my client, and I'm being very serious, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm trying to do the best I can for you, but the mediator just brought something to my attention, and I don't want you to get upset, but this is something that they're talking about, and I need to let you know that this might, lower the value if they're able to present this evidence." The mediator had given me a printout of the post, so I put the paper in front of her, and I said, they're really upset about the fact that you went cliff jumping in Mexico a month after the accident, like before your surgery. Immediately upon seeing the paper, the client starts laughing out loud uncontrollably laughing. And I'm like sitting there like, what's so funny? Your case is like about to get flushed down the toilet. Like, Why are you so giddy? And she looks at me, and then she points down to the paper, and she says, "Do you see at the bottom of my caption where it's hashtag TBT? This was a Throwback Tuesday post. I did this cliff jump 2 years before the accident, before I was even involved in the accident. And I was just reposting it as a throwback post." And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I went back, told the mediator, "Hey, there's a big misunderstanding. She wasn't in Mexico. She wasn't cliff jumping after her accident. This was from when she was younger, a couple years before." It ended up getting cleared up. Everything was verified. The case ended up resolving for a very good settlement. But classic case of like, don't just assume the worst. Mm-hmm. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Let them provide an explanation at a very minimum of like, instead of just assuming that they're guilty or assuming that they've done something wrong or whatever the case may be. But it's a good life lesson, because there's so many curveballs in life, and there's so many things that you think that it's, you believe things are one way, and then you hear something and it turns out to be completely different. So I think that's a great approach that you have in terms of how you're looking at it. And really, it's been a thrill and a pleasure to have you at the firm these past few days. I'm glad that you agreed to come on my podcast. We'll get a little sling for your shoulder, since I was twisting your arm to do that. But it's been great to have you. We want to, on behalf of the firm, wish you obviously the best of luck with the rest of your ABOTA fellowship. More importantly, best of luck with your bar results come November. Maybe win, lose, or draw, we'll bring you back on to give the folks the end part of the story, whether Ahmad is a licensed attorney or whether he's burying himself back in a cubicle to study for another 3 months.
No pressure.
No big deal. But again, great to have you. That's been our show for today. Thank you to all of the viewers for tuning in. We're going to see you on the next one. This has been the WallaceWins.com podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Cue the music.
Get your win at WallaceWins.com.